All right, our final panel. We have something really special planned for you guys. Elon wanted to come, but he's got a little space launch thing going on today, so he's a little busy. I'm going to introduce my friend Dave Lee. Dave is going to bring up with him, by popular demand, again, Mr. Sandy Munro and Mr. Emmet Peppers. I'm sure these are the guys that I adore, my heroes. My dream was always to put these three on one panel and just have them just talk for an hour. So I thought, why not do that? So please welcome Emmet.
Hi.
Mr. Sandy Munro. Sandy, 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 Sandy. And finally, my hero, Mr. Dave Lee. Woo! Let's go!
We'll let Dave sit in the middle of us, maybe. I'll sit.
All right, guys. Final panel.
Dave, you want to sit in the middle?
Actually, why don't you sit there?
Okay, sorry. All right.
All right, how you guys doing? Awesome. Yeah, I'm reminded of the Berkshire Hathaway annual conference. It's supposed to be legendary, but perhaps this could be the start of something even better. Yeah, Tesla fans, Tesla owners, Tesla investors coming together. It's an honor and a privilege to meet you guys personally. I'm deeply moved, deeply touched. There's so much just good vibes, giving, wanting to look out for each other, thinking not just for ourselves, but hey, we're in a bigger vision, purpose, mission, and we're in it together. So I just wanted to welcome you guys and say thanks from the bottom of my heart. All right. So I thought it'd be cool to do this thing where I'm going to call this this segment here, this talk, the greatest double down in history. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of share some anecdotes, some stories, and then also have Emmet and Sandy kind of chime in here. And the whole concept and theme of this kind of short kind of talk, and then we'll open it up for questions. So it'll be kind of half segment with this and half questions. But the theme is doubling down. So I don't know if you've ever seen kind of a crazy person double down, but typically it doesn't work out. And when it does work out, there's just sometimes a person who you could say they're kind of a little bit off in the head, but they continue to do it, right? They double down again, and they double down again, and eventually, you know, something happens, usually. But there are occasional rare times in history, I think, when you get a double down that actually continues to double down, and it doesn't explode, or it doesn't implode, it actually continues to grow. And I think what perhaps we might be witnessing today in this point of history is we're in the middle of what could be the greatest double down in history. And let me kind of take a step back and try to explain this. So when you compound something and you put something down, is if it grows, you're able to tackle something bigger. So for example, if you have an army and you conquer an army and you grow bigger, let's say as an army, the next target you can actually conquer a bigger target, right? And so that's the idea of compounding or investing to compound, is you can grow your assets or your resources bigger where the next target is going to get bigger and bigger. And if you combine this with doubling down, you kind of get the story of Elon Musk and Tesla, where in the beginning of Tesla's story, it goes back to the Roadster and the Model S, where most people would have done an electric car that looked like a Prius. That was basically practical, it was safe, it appeared to the eco kind of green conscious people, and that's what people were actually lobbying Tesla to do. That's what they thought they should do. But Elon did this weird move and he said, you know what, if we're gonna make it not just as a fringe niche player, but if we're gonna make it as perhaps the biggest automaker that shifts the world's energy usage, we've gotta go for the stars. And they created what was perhaps the craziest car of all time, which is the Model S, right? And I don't know if you guys thought about the Model S, but the Model S, in a way, is kind of one of the first or the big double downs that Elon did, where he said, we're not going to go for a cheap niche Prius. We're going to go for the best of the best. We're going to tackle the best of the cars, the BMW 7 Series, the Mercedes S-Class, all the best of the cars. And if we can't make it against these cars, forget it, we're dead. It's not worth going on anymore. And so it's remarkable, this double down, the first one with the Model S. And just like thinking about it, I wanted to bring Sandy and Emmet in this picture here, is I don't know if you guys have any kind of stories or memories from the Model S as kind of being this revolutionary kind of a big bet from Elon, but I don't know.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Model S for the first time, and it was love at first sight for a tech guy that liked new technology. It was a few years after the iPhone came out, and that was my first real new technology moment where I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I felt like at the time in 2010, when I saw the Model S, that I missed the boat on like Apple stock, and I had been investing in my personal account and such by that point. But when I saw that Model S in a department store, it was a prototype Model S, and I sat in there and played with the technology, it just planted a seed like, I need to investigate this. It just sparked something in me. And so a friend of mine and myself, we both had the same feeling, and I don't know what it was, but our curiosity was just lit, and we searched everything we could on the internet. There's very rarely any articles about Tesla at the time. It was nowhere on Twitter, and somehow we stumbled upon this Tesla Motor Club's forum. I don't even know how that existed then. It was still like a brand new car company, but there was something called the Tesla Motors Club forum, and that really helped bring my curiosity to a new level when it came to electric cars and what Tesla was doing and learning about it.
Yeah.
So I have no stories about the original Model S because we weren't allowed to use the word S or use the letter S in Detroit. They just, we never heard of it. So my first experience was the Model 3. And when we got that, and I started taking it down and started looking at what was going on inside, I made a lot of very brash statements, which basically eliminated me from the social society of the Detroit area. Okay, oh, and by the way, I didn't know I was going to be doing this, and I had this beer, which my wife gave me. So, anyhow. Yeah. Not chugging, folks. Yeah. So anyway, I will tell you one thing, though. The double down concept is not new to the United States. If you think about it, those revolutionary guys that threw tea into the Boston Harbor and whatnot, they're the original double downers here in the U.S. And then if you start looking, I mean, we had a whole bunch of double downers. The not military, but if you look at what happened with Thomas Edison, by the way, most people don't know he had zero education for the most part. Or if you look at Benjamin Franklin, these are guys that doubled down big time. I mean, at the end of the day, this country is built on guys that made double down. But unfortunately, we get stuck with, I'm sure that there's one or two of you out there, MBAs, and they don't double down. They grab the money and run. So I'm delighted that, I mean, when Gally was speaking, he talked about Elon Musk as an alien, and I had to think really hard. You know what? He probably is an alien, but it's okay. I like him. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. So the second double down, I think, was the Model 3. And originally, it was just called the third-gen car. And in 2014, Tesla had to make a big decision, which is to start their own kind of gigafactory in Nevada. And it was a crazy decision because it took on a lot of risk. Usually, you don't make that type of decision. Usually, you outsource everything. You don't take big risks when you don't have to, but it was a huge risk. In 2000, I think it was 15 or so, Emmet and I had a chance to visit the opening party of the Gigafactory in Nevada, and we were taken in by these shuttle buses or shuttle kind of carts or something through the empty building, and our jaws literally dropped because there was like football field after football field of building after building, and we're just shaking our head the whole time. I remember the next day, there was a Tesla management person who was one of the top kind of 3 or 4 people at Tesla, and I met him before, and I said, "Oh my gosh, like, did you see the factory?" And he's like, "Yes, that's how big Elon is thinking. Like, he's thinking bigger than anyone else is thinking." And I remember that moment because it was a complete double down where Elon probably could have, I won't say should have, but the whole company he put at stake. Because really, most people would have done a less risky, a more conservative move, outsource everything, don't take on a crazy, ambitious project. But Elon knew in order to deliver 500,000 cars at scale by 2020, that Tesla was planning to do, he had to take control of the destiny of Tesla's supply chain. And he had to make moves that no one else would make that would put the company perhaps at risk, but it was going to be worth it. So to me, that was kind of like the second double down, which was the Model 3 and doing things that other car companies no one would do. The third double down, I think, is FSD. It started out, right, as just autopilot. And typically, most companies, you wouldn't risk your whole company on AI or this non-related, supposedly, field. But what Tesla did was, rather than relying on a third-party supplier, like NVIDIA or Mobileye or some other company, they decided to basically double down again, right? And all of this investment that Tesla's done over the years is actually, in a way, hurt their short-term profitability. It's hurt their short-term kind of sustainability in a way. Like when Tesla was at the brink in 2018 or so, like they were pouring a lot of money into autopilot FSD even back then. They could have just canceled the project, but they didn't, right? They continued their double down. And what you see before our eyes right now is we're in the middle of this third double down that Elon and Tesla is really putting the company, in a sense, at risk to really deliver, which will be a completely new market for Tesla beyond cars. And the fourth double down, which is crazy, is humanoid robots. And this is a double down that is so crazy that most people are ridiculing Elon and Tesla's vision. Most people probably think it's a joke right now, right, that this bot is ever going to happen. And this is the classic kind of, I won't say the final double down, but it's the ultimate double down. And the reason why it's the ultimate double down is because with full self-driving, after you fix it and you solve the problem, you're basically solving for a big portion of what Elon calls real-world AI. You've built up an AI team. You've built up a supercomputer. You've built up all the neural nets and all of your training and Q&A teams and deployment teams, and you have just hundreds, if not thousands of people with expertise. And if you really want to double down, what are you going to do? You're basically going to try to solve for the ultimate, which is AI robots. Now, if you solve for AI robots, you basically solve for labor and production. You solve for construction. You solve for robots that can mine in the ground, that can create their own factories, that could build more robots themselves. And the concepts, the possibilities are frightening because they're unlimited in a sense. But if they're stewarded in the right way, meaning they're directed in safety and for the good of humanity, it becomes almost the ultimate product. A product that perhaps will never be eclipsed. And so what we have here is we have a company that could have started and probably should have just remained a niche auto player. Most people would have done that. Or a company that would have just maybe made a Gen 3 car like Tesla and then stopped, right? And become a mid-tier. Or a company that maybe had more ambition and became a large auto company. But what we're seeing before us is a completely different playing out of the scenario, which is a person and a company who's doubled down over and over, and now we're at this place where quite possibly, if Tesla is successful with solving for humanoid robots and AI, you could see a complete separation of history, like a moment where we see, like the 2020s was the demarcation. It was the turning point, right? And my hope is that it stays in Tesla's grip where it could be steered toward the good for humanity, that this technology can be closely guarded and done in the right way, combining humanity, responsibility together with pushing the envelope with engineering and innovation. And I think when we take a step back, that's kind of the bigger picture. We're at a remarkable turning point with, I think, one of the most remarkable, interesting leaders and also companies in the world who has doubled down multiple times and refuses to stop doubling down. It's like the most craziest thing. Most CEOs, most people, when they reach a certain pinnacle, they call it quits. They buy their island or their 10 houses all around the world and they chill out. But yeah, this isn't happening, and it's quite remarkable, the journey that we're in. Emmet, Sandy, do you have any kind of comments on that story?
Yeah, and this is where, yeah, those are good. That was very good. I think that what you find sometimes is that you'll bump into somebody who's not motivated by what the rest of us are. And I think that I can pretty much justify, for me, I can say this is true. We usually just strive for creature comforts and those things that are earthly, if you like. Some folks go for the stars. And this is the difference between Elon Musk and everybody else. He's not driven anymore by an island in the sun or something like that. Actually, I've heard that he's thinking of the idea of ditching all his houses and whatnot and basically living off the land or something. At the end of the day, this kind of a drive is so totally different. So I can't think of anything else but spiritual. The rest of us mere mortals can't quite comprehend. And that's why all these clowns that are I shouldn't have said that, but anyway, blame it on my wife. She gave me the 2 beers. So. But anyway, but at the end of the day, if you think of the guys that are living large in New York, they drink what is it, Pappy, whatever, brand, yeah, whatever. Anyhow, they're drinking this fine bourbon and they're eating a $120 steak and whatnot, and they think that this is the apex of life. And Elon sits at home, who knows, I think when I was with him, he had some kind of frozen dinner. It was a TV dinner. That's what he ate. So he gobbled that down while they were talking about how we're going to redesign this rocket motor. That's the difference between us and him. And that's what it boils right down to, boys and girls. It's us and him. Yeah.
Just to echo what Sandy was saying, it's not just what drives Elon. We've studied him for a long time. Many of us here have, and everyone knows he's motivated so differently than other folks. But he's also, some incredible, like once in a century, maybe beyond mastermind engineer. And he knows how to marshal massive resources in such an efficient way, and he attracts an ensemble of the top engineers in the world. SpaceX and Tesla are the number 1, number 2 place to work for like the most prestigious engineering schools for the past several years. So he's assembled this incredible team of talent, of the best engineers who are like-minded and want to change the world. And it's just incredible how this has all come together like this in this moment in time we're at. So, moment in time is now, 2020s is what I'm saying, not like 2022. Like, I don't know if this year's, you can't look at this year and say, this is the year, but I believe what Dave was saying, like this is the decade where Tesla revolutionizes the world in so many ways.
Right, this is a watershed year. Watershed years don't come along very often. I never really was worried about getting old. But I know I'm going to miss out on some serious good times because really what we're in the same stage as where it was between horses and buggies and steam and the electric car and the old-fashioned gas cars. We're right at that cusp. We're right at a watershed event where the water used to flow this way, but now it flows uphill. It's all different. So we're lucky. And if you're young enough, you're really lucky.
Awesome. All right. What I want to do now is actually take some questions from the audience. So what we're going to do is I want to kind of get the mic going so everyone can hear the question. So we'll take about, you have a mic. Okay, Matthew, could you actually choose the people to get questions? So Matthew here will take questions, and we'll just spend a good 30 minutes or so answering audience questions, getting to know you guys, and yeah, interacting a bit.
Hi. Assuming Tesla continues selling their cars to the public, what do you think is going to happen when Optimus goes into production and Tesla starts dogfooding and like putting it on their own production lines? Are they going to start passing the savings onto the customers? How much of an impact that's going to have, and how is that going to impact the competition? Will there be a competition?
Yeah, great question. Okay. So the question is, will Optimus, when Tesla start using Optimus robot for assembly in their factories, will they pass on that savings? How will the competition compete with that type of thing? Sandy, Emmett, do you have any?
Sounds like a Sandy question to me.
Thanks. Okay, so here's the deal. I believe that Tesla puts more money into R&D than anybody else. So consequently, when we talk about profit, some people will say that if they just would have put their R&D into profit, they would have made more money. Okay, you can do it that way, but I believe that once Elon comes up with, if we like to say the AI robot, AI has a whole bunch of different meanings and whatnot, and it has different levels. If it's a cognitive learning robot, in other words, as it makes mistakes, it learns, don't do that again, and that's pretty high level. But I don't think he's going to be able to come up with something like that right away. So my guess is that what he's going to do is the robots will come out, they'll have specific jobs, they'll be artificially intelligent, but they won't be as high a level as what he's going to want. And so these things are going to be either upgraded or scrapped, and new ones are going to come in their place. That's going to take away from the profitability of the company, and probably you're not going to see giant reductions in your next Model S Plaid. You bought one, right? Oh, 3. You got 3 of them. Oh, never mind. Okay, so, but I think that at the end of the day, this is going to be what his strategy is going to be until the day that he falls over dead. He's going to be continuously looking at how do I improve, how do I create. He's, like I say, he's different than the rest of us.
Yeah. I think also with Tesla, most of the human labor goes into the final assembly, the general assembly, and so that's actually, a lot of stuff is quite hard. It'll be a progressive thing over many years that a robot gets as good enough as a human. Some of the savings will be passed on, but then ultimately, the value that Tesla gives to the end person with autonomous driving is going to increase the value and the transaction. But yeah, I don't know how others will compete, to tell you the truth. All right, next question. Thank you. Appreciate it.
First of all, you guys are legends, and thank you for everybody. You changed my life, and probably a lot of people here, Dave, leave. But Sandy, we love you, so take care of yourself. We want you around for a long time. I have a consumer. There we go. So I have
Your conscience is the optimist.
Yeah, a consumer question regarding Cybertruck. Well, 2 things. How long do you think it'll take them to ramp up it for it to be like all the bugs worked out on the first Cybertrucks? And then second, that add-on camping device that somebody's working at, yeah, is that going to work, and is it going to get better, and is that going to be a thing?
Okay, so that was a great question, half of which I can't answer. So, okay, Cyberlander is a customer, so I have to I can't talk about that. So, but what I can talk about is the ramping of the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck, I think, if everything looks as golden as what I see, it'll ramp very, very quickly. So usually what you try and do is a couple of thousand a month when you first roll out, and then you quickly try and bring it up so you get to scale. And like I mentioned before, I believe they'll be able to crank 50,000 of those out in the first 6 months of launch. If they can get it out, it's supposed to be in July or something like that. Is that it? When is? I think.
Curious, Sandy, Elon mentioned a dedicated robotaxi car last night. Do you think that will be using kind of folded stainless steel, like methods that they learned from Cybertruck for a dedicated robotaxi? No?
Nah, it's too expensive. I would suggest that they'd either going to be using fiberglass, carbon fiber, or aluminum. It's easier to get a hold of. It's faster and cheaper to get the equipment on. And you're not looking at a lot of style for that kind of thing. So Cybertruck, and by the way, those out there who don't know, I have 5 of them coming. We ordered them in the first 5 minutes. So, and that will be, my wife will definitely get the Rivian, and I will have the Cybertruck, yeah. But I believe that that's going to happen very, very quickly. So.
Okay, sounds good. Next question.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name's Andy. I just wanted to know what Elon said last night about the FSD being wide release public by the end of the year. Do you think that's optimistic, or do you think that's likely? I'm a subscriber myself.
The community
so
first
that'll be-
village is the.
Yeah. FSD will, like Elon commented that he's expecting wide release. I think my interpretation was FSD beta would go to wide release, which just would mean that, basically anyone who wants it could get it. So imagine the safety score dropping to whatever. But Tesla could still kick you out, so they might still have a safety score at some level. So it's just a gradual expansion that I think Elon expects anyone who wants to in the US to get it. And I think it's reasonable. If not, maybe you could extend a quarter or two out further. But I think the reasonable time frame. But the question after that is, will it really be 2 times as safe as a human, et cetera? I think that takes time as well. And so we have this one thing of just rolling out the beta and then incrementally improving its safety, right? So I think personally, every quarter I'm seeing a lot of improvements with FSD beta. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. That's all I know. It's like I drove Emmet here, pretty much intervention free, like 25 minutes. It was just like, it was impressive.
Yeah,
drive.
that was my first time ever actually in the full self-driving beta, and I was able to relax. I mean, I was in the passenger seat normally where I would get fidgety and be like, even with other people driving, but there were some awkward moments where it hesitates a little bit, but just knowing that Dave was comfortable because he had clearly used it enough to be comfortable, and seeing his comfort level made me kind of know, hey, and it worked itself out in every situation. It just slightly different than maybe a human would in certain ways, but it seemed entirely safe in retrospect in all those situations. So I think, I believe Elon at his word when he thinks later this year it's going to be wide release for North America. I'm hopeful. That'd be great.
Yeah, that being 2 times as safe, I think, is a way underestimation. I think you're looking at 100 times safer with full self-driving. And quite frankly, on the way home, the last, whatever it was, Wednesday or Thursday, Tuesday or Wednesday, I encountered some lady who had to do texting, flying all down and nobody goes the limit in Detroit. I mean, if you're going 90, you're being passed. Anyway, she's flying along and switching lanes and whatnot. And when I got close to her, then I could see she's texting while she's driving. That's good for self-driving. I want her in the back seat doing whatever typing she wants to do. I believe that really and truly, full self-driving will eliminate things like seat belts, airbags, all kinds of stuff that you pay for now, but you only have it there because you're going to have an accident eventually, and it'll probably be because of somebody who is incompetent, or maybe had too many beers, or maybe they just don't know how to drive. It scares the daylights out of me when I see these kinds of things. So I think, though, that my experience with full self-driving was with Dirty Tesla, the guy in charge of Michigan's Tesla group. And I'm telling you what, when I see cars make 30-degree left-hand turns and 120-degree turns onto a street that doesn't even have a name, I mean, then I'm really impressed, and I was very impressed with the last drive that I had in full self-driving, and that's been a while ago. So there's been a few upgrades since then. Tragically, I don't have full self-driving for any number of reasons, I'm sure. But anyways, I'm looking forward to it being mandated, not. Oh, here we go. See, traveling down the government thing.
All right, next
Pass.
question, Matthew.
Gender diversity here.
Thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Solar Roof has not scaled very quickly or as quickly as I thought. I think that they'll want to design new homes around Solar Roof. Have you guys given that a lot of thought? And how that would lead to neighborhoods? And then how it would lead to actually changing how we would wire our homes? That would mean that we'd need like new white goods. Have you thought about that?
Oh, I can jump in on that
Yeah,
one.
actually, Emmet has the Solar Roof two times, right? On two
Yeah,
houses.
I got the Tesla Solar Roof 2 times. So in my previous house, I was one of the first people in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the first paying customers in 2016 to get it. That was version 1, I think. And it worked great. I had 2 Powerwalls, and then we moved to another house 2 years ago. And it was a bigger house, and we got the newer version of the Solar Roof, and it looks fabulous. We have 6 Powerwalls, and the power has been cut out on us a few times, and in the neighborhood, and our house is still running like no problem. There's not even a flash in the clocks. It just digitally keeps going. Like it's really a nice luxury to be able to have these power walls and the Solar Roof just feeding them and feeding my cars to be charged. So I do think it is a very attractive feature. Our previous house, when we sold it, I think it increased the value of it, having the Solar Roof versus not. Solar panels, they're functional, but they're not aesthetically pleasing. Like, it's true. Like, it's questionable. Some buyers like it, some don't. But when you have the Solar Roof, almost every buyer from the real estate agent that worked with us loved it and wanted, that was a high interest. So I think new homes, especially being built, it would be a really attractive option to be included, and I could see partnerships with a lot of home builders to include it more frequently in their new neighborhood builds. But we'll see what happens.
So my wife and I put in solar panels on our place. We just bought a new house, and we don't have a really good southern exposure, but our electric bill went down, and we have 3 Powerwalls. And our electric bill went from $230 to $11. That's a good reason for maybe going into solar. Yeah, and that's in Detroit, Michigan, or not in Detroit, but in Michigan, where it snows a lot, and you don't get a whole lot of solar power when there's 1.5 feet of snow on top of your solar panels. But at the end of the day, we are absolutely delighted. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be moving away from a gas stove to an electric stove and on and on. We're very, very happy with it, and I believe it's the wave of the future. And I wish I could have got the solar shingles. That's what I really wanted, but they aren't available in Michigan yet.
One extra thought on this is it is a bit laborious for them to send teams to tear down the roof and then put down the new roof. They have to prep it and then put on the new roof with flashing. I think, like you suggested, new homes being built, it would be just so much organic to just put it on as part of the home being built versus tearing. And then this roof lasts 100 years, and it's just an obvious thing they should be doing. I'm sure there's discussions, and when they get ramped up with the solar shingle production and the right version that Elon's happy with. My understanding is Elon's very particular with the look, and he wants it to be just right. And so maybe they're making some fine-tune adjustments every so often, and till they can ramp up production to the way where maybe there'll be partnerships with new home builders and such. But also the bot, like, you know, I think way back in one of our discussions, Dave, you mentioned maybe they'll have a robot putting on the solar roof, the solar boards. It is solar board. Maybe when the bot is built, maybe it could help be part of the manual labor of tearing down roofs and putting new roof shingles on. I don't know. That could be 5+ years away, but that could help.
Well, the other thing that I think we should start looking at is, why in the world do we have AC power in a house when we are making DC power? I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. So should my wife and I decide to ever build another house, I'm going to redesign it, and everything is going to be everything's going to be electric, number one, and I'm definitely going to go with DC power. I'm making it. I might as well use it. Why should I convert it to AC and then bring it back to DC? Doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to be, that's what I'm going to be probably working on.
All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead and for our panelists, we'll try to keep our answers a little quicker so we get more questions and interaction going. So go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah. Is there a woman who has a question? I just want to have some diversity. Yes, thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a question more, as I would love to hear a bit more, but one double down that maybe you haven't commented on is SpaceX. And with the, we're going to be going down to Starbase, some of us a little bit later, and though nobody understands what that is. I tell my friends and family, I'm going to go see, they think I'm going to go see a rocket fly, and it's not that. And that is a vision that I think is, needs to also be part of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. SpaceX, how many of you guys agree that it's like underrated? People don't completely grasp, you know, what they're doing. Yeah, it's crazy because it's this combination of not just a noble mission or this crazy mission, right, to get this civilization on Mars established, but it's a combination of a legitimate business model. Like, that has never been done before, and that's kind of this genius that people are completely overlooking, which is Starlink. And Starlink is not getting the coverage that it deserves, but this is possibly, you know, a company that could be worth trillions of dollars with just what they're doing. So, and revolutionize education and opportunity for everyone in the world. But yeah, definitely agree with SpaceX. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to SpaceX, and I also worked on other rockets for L'Oreal, for Boeing, for McDonnell Douglas, a whole bunch of different places. And I can tell you that everything that they did, these other guys, they took no suggestions from us. And when I went down to look at the rocket ships that were being created down in Brownsville, I was totally blown away. Corey and I both went down there, looked around for 4 hours. Totally look at whatever you want kind of a thing, and I was really impressed with the way they were building rockets versus the drilling and putting in rivets, and holy mackerel, I can't believe how much labor and how much inaccuracy you're going to wind up with, whereas Tesla's basically TIG welding and cranking them out like there's no tomorrow.
Okay, this question's for Dave, Emmett, and Sandy. In all of your videos, I think you referenced the 800-pound gorilla, which is probably China. And in one video, Sandy was mentioning the 70s, which is, again, before my time, where all of a sudden you have freighters and freighters of Japanese imports coming in. Do you see China essentially supplanting the American OEMs after Tesla as maybe the first tier of an automaker? In other words, is this horizon foretold, or do you think geopolitics have changed and it's a whole new game out there? What do you think about China? And
China's going to kick the U.S.'s ass. They're going to wind up with 30% market share, and I'm almost never wrong. I have nothing to do with these guys here.
I think the Chinese EVs are second place to Tesla, and globally, once they saturate the Chinese markets, they will export globally. So we'll see.
Yeah, my perspective is if you look 5-10 years in the future, the value you get in a car is going to be less and less the hardware. It's going to be more and more the software that drives the car. That's what you're going to be buying a car for. And so to me, if you look at the old school paradigm of what a car is, the Chinese OEMs are very attractive right now. They have they're doing a lot of things right. The question is, are they going to be able to solve full self-driving? Are they going to be able to solve autonomous cars? And is it really a market that can be distributed, meaning it's not a winner-takes-all market? And my leaning is actually with the network effects of data that it's at least a winner-takes-most market. And yeah, right now Tesla, it's their game to lose, and it's the Chinese OEMs and other OEMs to fight over the pieces left over.
This question is for you, Dave. All right. Would you interview Tony Sebo? All right, Rethink X?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm asking that because...
Bring a microphone up close to your face.
I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Biden's Build Back Better or whatever it is, I think it's focused wrong, okay? At the car, it should be first principles. It should be energy because, and Tony Seba, he's talking about $2 trillion, 2.4, all right? We've been spending trillions. You could electrify, completely replace, you know, the grid.
Yeah.
So that seems to be...
Yeah. I definitely would love to interview Tony Seba, so hook me up. If anyone else can, I'd love to.
I live here in Austin. Can
Okay.
afterwards, I would like to give you more information, that's all.
Yeah.
All right? Also,
Okay.
all right.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Hi, Dave. Since you've talked about the various S-curves on your podcast and expanding on the electrification part of that, so all across the West, we're seeing fires. I live in Colorado. We've had three major fires in the last few months. I'm sure they're happening in California as well. Two of those, at least, have been started by power lines down. And so this national grid that we're so dependent on is also a big fire risk. And so do you think there is any possibility that Elon may be thinking about distributed grids, you know, microgrids, whatever? That's my question.
Yeah, the question is Elon thinking about microgrids, distributed grids? I think it's in their, I think they think about it a lot. They have their plates full with cars right now, and the priority of batteries are going to the cars. But I think over time, as they get more battery supply, you'll see more priority focused on energy. Yeah, not just mega packs, but I think they'll experiment with more things, you know, partner with utilities, create their own, you know, various projects. So I'm optimistic that we're going to see. One of the areas I think Tesla's underrated also is, again, it's this theme of compounding. The idea is with energy, it's such a crazy multi-trillion-dollar market. The problem is nobody has true competitive advantage because they don't have this compounded kind of advantage over time. They haven't built the advantage. And so Tesla, I think, is the first energy company in the world that has the potential to build a compounded advantage of innovation, of efficiency and cost and lots of different things. Well, they'll be able to tackle the energy markets like no other company has ever done before. But it's not going to happen this year or next year. You know, it won't be finalized. This is going to happen over many years. But definitely exciting trend and exciting question. Thanks.
Let's take one final question and then call it good. Is that okay?
Yes, let's go for it.
Hi, I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on the Tesla Semi and how high up on the, how high of a priority on the projection list do you think it is?
I'll start, and maybe Sandy. I think Tesla understands the potential. I think there's, my speculation, there's been some internal disagreements where the Semi takes a lot of batteries, and that takes away from the cars. so there's a timing issue where if Tesla had all the batteries in the world, they could release all these products simultaneously. But they've had to prioritize, and they've chosen to prioritize the Model 3 and the Model Y now. So I think, yeah, the Semi is super important. I've heard, people thinking that Semi within Tesla can actually sell hundreds of thousands of units per year and actually be a really big market. They're not thinking of it as a niche market. They're really thinking of it as a big market. And so they understand, the potential. My thinking is again, compounding. If you are actually able to put an autonomous Semi on the road, you have such a big advantage. What else can you do with that? If you're a crazy double down person, you could double down on the next step, which would be logistics and kind of a bigger play than just Semi. So we'll see what will happen with that.
Well, I know that there's at least 3 legitimate electric Semi producers. And the reason that I'm encouraging all of them, including the Tesla Semi, all you have to do is go to LA, go down to the docks and look at 10,000 trucks standing in a line, idling, the worst polluting way that you can have a nice vehicle. Polluting, basically pouring out diesel fuel like there's no tomorrow, waiting to be basically that truck that's going to take and unload some of that information, some of that stuff that's being shipped in via these different great big giant ocean tankers and ocean carriers. These things pollute more than anything. They pollute more than any jet engine. They pollute like there's no tomorrow. We should be encouraging everybody that's doing something like that to help out the ecology. I know that this is going to be like a bad thing to say, but right now, Nicola's.
All right, guys, 15. That's it now.
There's 15 of their trucks out there not idling. We need 1,000, 10,000, 15,000, 200,000. We need a lot of trucks that don't have diesel engines on them.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, appreciate everything.
Thank you.